Good evening, and welcome to everyone who is also joining us on the internet. Last week, I mentioned that each of you is the salvation of the world, and that I might ask you how you did in that respect this week. I'm not going to do that. You're off the hook. But you might ask, how can I be the salvation of the world? What am I supposed to do? And the simple answer is you might pray for the world. You might pray for key figures, let us say, in situations occurring in the world. You might pray for a particular part of your body that doesn't seem to be reflecting God or God's purpose. And then we might ask, well, how do you pray? What is the right way to pray? And actually, we've been talking about it for some weeks now. True prayer is when you abandon what you think you want, what you think you need, when you abandon the thoughts you have about your wants and needs, and go within and turn toward the altar. To what? Inquire of God what the truth is. And then listen, without interjecting anything in the process. Listen. If it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, which means withhold nothing from you, then you can count on it that any genuine inquiry you extend to God will be answered. The fact is that the answer is always being given. But by virtue of bringing your attention to the point of listening for the answer, opens your mind to the receipt of the answer. Now, when you get the answer, when clarification occurs, you can say, oh, wow, this is a wonderful bit of information. Having received the answer doesn't automatically mean that you embrace the answer and let it change you. So ultimately, true prayer, and I said this a number of years ago, is saying yes to God. It's not asking for something. It's not asking God to change a situation or do something for you. It's to listen unconditionally, undefendedly, within, in the quietness of your being. In other words, turning toward the altar and desiring to know the truth. Listening, standing in receipt of it, and then saying, yes. In other words, agreeing. Because when you make agreement, you make a commitment. You make commitment. So prayer is saying yes to God. What I want to have be unmistakable to every single one of you is that when you say yes to God, having inquired, having listened, and having heard, you abandon independence and you join with God. And as I've said before, one with God is a majority. When there is only one will finding expression in your partnership with God, and it's God's will, there is power. You become an agent for change. It's not a personal, private power, but it's the power of God being unequivocally himself in all of his integrity that finds no resistance to its embodiment in you. And so it becomes embodied. It's spontaneous, it's automatic, it's actual. And so the brother you wanted to know the truth about, the kidney or the heart or the circulatory system that you wanted to know the truth about, you know the truth about, and healing results. Do not under any circumstances think that realization of the truth is something that will only happen in your mind. When it happens in your mind, and your mind is not imbued with a sense of personal, private, independent authority, the authority of God is what is embodied. And therefore, God is not blocked from expression. I would encourage all of you, at least once a day, to sit down to love your world, to want to know the truth about it so that you might say yes to God and have the embodiment of His will objectively manifested in the world. Because when you bring your undivided willingness to Him, that is what happens. His will becomes embodied and healing occurs. What is healing? Healing is the revealing of God's intent in His creation, where it had been escaping your attention because you had given your own definitions to it. So when the ego suggests to you, what can you do? You're just one among billions. Now you know that you have the capacity to be an agent for change by saying yes to God. What happens when you turn toward the altar? You have the experience of knowing the truth. And you have the experience of the truth making you free. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Not that you will know a truth and rehearse it in your mind, but you will become still enough to inquire of God as to what truth is. And in the inspiration, in the infilling of truth that occurs, you will find yourself knowing it. And then you will say, yes. And it will be embodied. Because that's the way it works. Okay.
Good evening, Raj. Are there other dynamics that we might be called to share with the greater body? I speak specifically of life force, chi, coming accumulative to possibly serve the difficulties in the Middle East, a draining of energy, a loss of focus on an individual basis. As we turn to the altar, can we be called unconsciously to be sharing our life force, if you will, for healing? Is there a sensation of loss of maybe grounding, not peace, but grounding? Is there another dynamic that might be going on that we might be experiencing but not identifying correctly?
Absolutely not. Your question suggests that you are a body.
Part of a body, the body of Christ.
But when you speak of your energy,
Yes.
you are speaking of a private energy, an energy that is peculiar to you. There's only one energy, and it is infinite. It is the energy of spirit. And the energy of spirit is love. And love is God. Love is infinite. And that energy can't be spent. You cannot be depleted. And when you are joined with the Father, you no longer have a sense of private, separate beingness that can be energized or depleted. You don't need to call the energy chi or anything else. It's love. Plain, pure, and simple. Love is the substance of everything. Everything you are experiencing is pure energy. Whether you call it glass or carpet or skin, it's energy. It is spirit, not matter. And the substance of it is love, embodying perfectly what the Father is being right there in the movement of being, creation. So no, you will not find yourself becoming ungrounded at all or depleted in any way unless you decide that having turned toward the altar and having gotten filled up with, quote, the truth, you turn your back to the altar and try to take it out to everyone you see who needs the truth, without realizing that the reason they need the truth is because you are looking at them on your own, still with your own definitions, and seeing them through the lens of fear, because you cannot have your back to the altar without experiencing fear, and without misinterpreting everything you see. Many individuals play with the idea that turning to the altar is like dipping a candle into wax in the process of making a candle, and you dip it in and then you pull it out of the wax and let the new coating harden, and the candle is more than it was before. And so they dip themselves in love and truth, and then they come out from it and bring it back to those poor souls that they see, which they see because they're not looking with God. Then they will find themselves depleted and will need to go back for another dip. You see. No. When you put leaven in bread and it performs its function, it doesn't wear itself out. And a little bit of leaven leavens the whole brotherhood. A little bit of love, experienced unequivocally and without bias, and admitted to, embraced, blesses the whole brotherhood. And it doesn't deplete you at all because it's not a personal possession of a particular form occupying a certain amount of space. You see?
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Could I just add many I've spoken with are experiencing a floating, overwhelming reaction to what's going on, not knowing maybe the truth. That's the problem. Is this sensation the turning away from the altar? Is this kind of...
It happens when you try to gather the facts of being from the way things appear when you have your back to the altar, yes.
So it's a sensation of turning your back to the altar.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you must watch for the tendency to become infatuated with the awfulness of things. Your movies, your television programs have conditioned you to enjoy, in quotes, the stimulation of violence. Car crashes, explosions, wild, hair-raising chases, cars flipping over and over, things that cannot even happen in real life. And there is an infatuation with stimulation. Right now, you could say that there is a lot of, quote, reality TV, unquote, being broadcast on your televisions. And it is quite stimulating because it's real. It's not pre-recorded, it's not staged, it's, quote, real life, unquote. And it's a rather violent and, in that sense, visually stimulating experience. If you are going to try to gather the facts of being from what is presented, you are going to experience ungroundedness. You are going to find yourself blown emotionally one way and then another. because you don't have an anchor. And the only way you're going to find an anchor is if you pull back from your infatuation and your tendency to find out what's going on. In other words, gather the facts of being from what you're seeing, so that in the quietness within you, you might inquire, what is really going on here? So that you're not stimulated by the definitions you've given to everything, or that you've been taught to see. What you will see on the TV is a call for love, a call for the conscious experience of truth in you. When you recognize that's what it is, then turn away from the TV and go within, so that you might know the truth, agree with it, make commitment to it, and be out from that clarity within you. Okay. We will begin in the text.
The innocence of God is the true state of mind of His Son. In this state, your mind knows God, for God is not symbolic.
If God was symbolic, you could only think about God or have an opinion about God. But in this state of mind, in this state, your mind knows God. It's a direct experience, and not only that, the experience reveals to you that it is your natural state of being. So you have learned from knowing God that you are the presence of God. When you get your personal little sense of yourself out of the way and let Him be all there is right where you are. Continue.
Should I read that sentence?
Yes.
In this state, your mind knows God, for God is not symbolic, He is fact. Knowing His Son as He is.
Meaning that now that you've experienced yourself as you are and have had this insightful, inspirational revelation, go on.
Knowing His Son as He is, you realize that the atonement, not sacrifice, is the only appropriate gift for God's altar, where nothing except perfection belongs.
Or can be. Continue.
The understanding of the innocent is truth. That is why their altars are truly radiant.
Their altars are truly radiant because they're not introducing anything that covers up and dims the radiance. Continue.
Miracles as true perception. I have stated that the basic concepts referred to in this course are not matters of degree. Certain fundamental concepts cannot be understood in terms of opposites. It is impossible to conceive of light and darkness or everything and nothing as joint possibilities. They are all true or all false. It is essential that you realize your thinking will be erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is made.
And this is why I said that prayer is saying yes to God. Until you say yes to God, your thinking will be erratic, ungrounded, rudderless.
A firm commitment to darkness or nothingness, however, is impossible. No one has ever lived who has not experienced some light and something, no one, therefore, is able to deny truth totally, even if he thinks he can.
Now, if you are the direct expression of God, the son or daughter of God, and you have chosen to have a daydream, you have chosen to use your imagination to conceive of something that God has not created, you can create for yourself a fantasy, a daydream. And in this daydream, you can imagine that you are not connected with God. You can imagine that you are an independent, free agent. But you know what? You couldn't have this fantasy without being the direct expression of God. Something real about you has to be engaged in the fantasy, in creating the fantasy. So, no matter how definite you become about seeing yourself as independent from God, you have to use your God-given ability to be conscious to do it. You see?
Yes.
So there's no way for you to become totally ignorant of God. There's no way for you to not be experiencing some of what truth is. You see? Mm-hmm. Continue.
Innocence is not a partial attribute. It is not real until it is total. The partly innocent are apt to be quite foolish at times. It is not until their innocence becomes a viewpoint with universal application that it becomes wisdom.
This is not to say that spurts of the experience of innocence are not valuable. It just means that you're apt to be quite foolish at times, and at other times you're apt to be quite wise. And the moments of wisdom that you experience reveal to you more of what is true of you, so that it becomes easier for you to think of yourself in that more enlightened way, and thus give more frequent permission. Continue.
Innocent or true perception means that you never misperceive and always see truly. More simply, it means that you never see what does not exist and always see what does.
Yes. I'm going to share with you a statement that will help to make things clearer here. The statement is that I, Jesus, beheld the perfect man where sinning mortal man appeared to mortals. In other words, where those whose backs were to the altar